Chapter 2. The Pros and Cons. When these events took place, it was on the way back from Scottania's expedition to the Badlands of Nebraska. In the United States, the French government asked me to join the expedition because of my position. Assistant professor in the Museum of Natural Historian in Paris, after spending 6 months in Nebraska, I finally arrived in New York toward the end of March, laid down with many precautions things that I had collected there. I was to leave France in the beginning of May, and in the meanwhile I was busy classifying my mineralogy, botanic, and zoological treasures. It was then the incident of Scottania took place. I was well informed and much discussed subject, and in fact, how could it not have been? I have read and reread all American and European papers without getting any near to conclusion. This mysterious intrigues me. I was unable to form any opinion about it, and drifted from one extreme to another. That was something that actually had to take place, and no question of doubting. Thomases were invited to touch the Scottanian wound during my stay in New York City. The questions at its height. The theory it was floating island immersed unappealed by people, not company to judge, had been completely abandoned. For unless this reef contained a mentor, how could it move from one place to another in such pristine speed? Likewise, the theory of floating wrecks in some huge ship was rejected, all because of rapidly moving movement. Therefore, the main autopsy solution is the problem with each one development of their own group. For stations, one hand there are those who claim it must have been a monster of colossal strength, and other hand there are those who've been a submarine with extreme powerful engines. While the secondary press is more plausible, could nothing been against the injuries carrying out Europe and America. It seemed highly likely improbable that the private individual who can such a mechanical device at his disposal. Now when everyone can have built and can only kept his construction a secret. Only government could possess such a weapon and destruction. And at this historian times when man genuineness is being part of the work increasing power of weapons, and some countries might have tried to build such a formidable device. After the chase pot rifles, torpedoes, after torpedoes, underwater battering rams, and then the reaction, at least so I hope. But the theory was some war machine that fell through before the statements of various governments, since it was a matter of public interest. The safety of transatlantic ocean communication in question. There was no reason to doubt the honesty of their statements. In addition, how could anyone imagine the destruction of a submarine that could spit public notice? To keep secret under such circumstances is very difficult for an individual and such immediately impossible for a country who has ever and consistently watched their powerful rivals. Therefore, after inquiries made in England, France, Russia and Prussia, Spain, Italy, America, even Turkey, the theory of underwater monitor was definitely rejected. So once again, despite insinuous joke in the laser newspaper, everyone was talking about monsters and people should invention creatures that more absurd than without its dreams, exciting mad, I'd seek ticklish. During my stay in New York, several people had done me an honor to consider on this matter. In France, I had published 2 volumes work called The Mysterious of the Ocean Depths. The book has been essentially well received by scientists, therefore it made me a specialist, rather observed branch in natural history. People want to know my opinion. As long as the facts could stay in denial, be denied, I confined myself to complete skepticism. But I soon found myself diving into concern, and then, finally, the Honorable Pierre Anarch Professor of the Imperial Museum was once called upon by New York Federal, pushing some opinion. I complied and spoke because I know it not remain silent. I discussed the problem from every angle, both political and scientific. I get extra clarified with written the article published on April 30th. After examining one of the various has been proposed, and I said, therefore, since all other territories must be rejected, that one force to admit existence, a marine animal of extraordinary power. We know nothing about this great ocean depth surrounding the unbent reach. What takes place of those remote canyons? What creatures live, or what live, 12 or 15 miles below the surface? How are such animals built? We can scarcely even guess. These qualities go hand in hand in a problem discussion for either we all know varieties of creatures which inhabit our planet or we do not. If we do not know them all, and nature still holds some secrets for us where our life sea concerned, there is nothing more reasonable than admit existence of fish or whales or a kind unknown to us, especially built from inhabit unfortunate depths. The ocean which even from desire long and travels of time. If one, on the contrary, we all know species live things, we must try to find the animal in question among the marine creatures already classified. It is constantly violently admitting the existence of a giant narwhal. The ordinary narwhal, or the unicorn of fish, some would call, is a kind of whale that grows at a length of 60 feet. Multiple of 5 or 10 times get this fish strength proportion in its size. So we have an animal under discussion. It would have been proportions animal under discussion would have been partially observed by officers of the Shannon. The weapon required to examine the hull of the Scottania is strength needed to penetrate the hull of the steamer. For a narwhal is armed with a kind of ivory sword and held on some naturalist point. It was a tusk on hand of steel. Occasionally tusks are found to be bedded in the bodies of other kinds of whales against which a narwhal always wins. Others may have been removed, not without difficulty, from the hulls of the ship, which appears to came to easily dull prices a barrel. The museum in the Faculty of Medicine of Paris owns one of these tusks, 7 feet to 4.5 inches long and 19 inches thick at the base. Now imagine this weapon 10 times larger and a fish 10 times stronger. Imagine the traveling speed at 20 miles an hour. Most of this speed is a mass that you have to blow capable of producing require cast sample. Therefore, until we receive further information, I shall be in my opinion that this unicorn fish or colossal proportions armed with no hellburn, but real battery ram like a warship, which it could equal both sides of strength. This might be an expedition of unexplainable phenomena, unless it's an illusion, despite what then glimpses. So I felt the experience which is still possible. These last words were cowardice of my part. To be contained degree, I want to protect my solitary reputation and not be a laughing stock of America. For people enjoy a hearty laugh, I let myself away out by an effort I admitted the existence of the monster. My article, wholly discussed, therefore became widely known. The solution is proposed a more over grain-free ribbon. People's imagination. The human mind enjoys grandest ideas about supernatural creatures, and the sea is probably a medium of such ideas. Only one against those giants or rays can develop giants alongside which earthly animals such as elephants or rhinoceroses are nothing but dwarfs. This seas support the largest known species of mammals. Perhaps the Columbian muscat's incredibly sized or terrifying concerns such as lobsters, 100-yard long or crabs weighing 200 tons. Why not? Long ago in the geologic times, earthbound animals, quadruples, chondromania, reptiles, birds, all produced species of gigantic sizes. The creator formed from the colossal mold which had reduced little by little. Why couldn't the sea itself unknown depths could have kept some vast sections life along our age, since unlike Earth shall consistently be altered, it is unchangeable. Why could it not hide in the bottomless of the last survivors of the Titanic species, for whom years are centuries and centuries of millennia? But letting myself be carried away reveals, which I must put aside, even though these fantasies which are time of change to me are terrible realities. But back then, people had already made up their minds about the matter, and the public blethering believed the existence of some predatorous creature which nothing common with fallible sea serpents. But although some saw it purely scientist problems, others, especially more benevolent mind people in America, England, and those especially clear of the oceans, this terrible monster, in order to make transatlantic travel safe again. Industrial and commercial newspapers considered the questions principally the point of view, the shipping and wrestling gazelle, the loyalty and paracrime bought, the revenue, maritime colonial. All the periodicals concerned with insurance companies who were threatened to their rights was unanimous at this point. Once public opinion has made itself felt like the United States was the first country to go into action. An expedition was organized in New York to hunt the narwhal. A very frigid frigate, the Abraham Lincoln, got ready to pull in the sea soon as possible. The shipyards were torn open. The commander frigate, who was split the funeral at great speed and efficiency. But then, always it happens, just had been considered the chase of the monster do not reappear for months, not even heard. No ship sighted. It seemed that if this unicorn fish knew about the plots being hatched against it. There had been so much discussion about it, and in a translated cable, some jokers pretended that it's a sly creature that information of telegram and making use of information is contained. The frigate was therefore prepared for a long campaign, equipped for a formal fishing gear, but nobody knew where it ascended. Everyone grew more impatient when on July 2nd, it was learned that the steamer of the line pass between San Francisco and Shangri-La had seen the animal there 3 weeks earlier in the northern Pacific waters. This piece of news caused great excitement. Commander Frigate was ordered to set sail within 20,000 hours. The ship has been stocked with food and its coal bunkers filled to the brim. Not a single man was missing on the ship. The roll call. As the remain is done, the light in the furnaces, heat boils, and weigh anchor. Another half-day delay would have been unforgettable. But the commander, Frigate, asked nothing better to underway. 3 hours before Abraham Lincoln was due to leave his prior in Brooklyn, I received a following letter. Mr. Anorax, Professor of Paris Museum, 50th Avenue Hotel, New York. Dear Sir, if you'd like to join the expedition of the Abraham Lincoln, the government of the Union will take great pleasure in having represented the France enterprise the Canterbury as his captain at your disposal. Very enduring yours, J.B. Harbison, Secretary of Naval.